Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Lack of marketing, overblown budget, or just being crowded out by bigger titles. Not every game can be a hit. This is a list of the top 5 games that flopped. Number 5 is Okami. Okami was one of a kind. No other game is like it, past or present. Released first in 2006 on the PS2, it later received a port to the Wii. A massive critical success, garnering Metacritic aggregate scores of 93 and 90% for the PS2 and Wii respectively. Heck, IGN even awarded it their Game of the Year for 2006. Despite all of this, it only managed to sell 600,000 copies. This led to Okami being recognised as the least commercially successful winner of a Game of the Year award in the 2010 version of the Guinness World Record Gamers Edition. This was not where the disappointment ends. Shortly after its release, Capcom disbanded the developers Clover Studios. Luckily, since then many of its employees went on to form Platinum Games, now known for more commercially successful games like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Number 4, Psychonauts. Similar to Okami, Psychonauts is a brilliant game, and it earned immense critical success, with many praising its innovation. However, not many people bought it. Selling less than 100,000 copies, it managed to win GameSpot's 2005 Best Game No One Played award. Disappointing sales isn't the end of it. The game also led to the resignation of their publisher Majesco's CEO. To make matters worse, the company's stock plummeted, promoting a class action lawsuit by the company's stockholders. Some blamed the poor sales on marketing, others were just baffled as to its failure. Luckily, there is a silver lining once again. 7 whole years after Psychonaut launched, it became a part of the Humble Bundle and managed to sell 600,000 copies. The creator of Psychonauts, Tim Schafer, stated that they made more on Psychonauts in 2012 than ever before. Number 3 is Too Human. Sometimes a game's budget just spirals out of control, ending up costing a lot more than originally planned. Too Human is the poster child for this. Costing an estimated $70 to $100 million to create, its development was extremely long and faced many issues along the way. The primary one being an expensive struggle between Epic Games and the Unreal Engine 3, leading to developer Silicon Knights abandoning the engine and making their own. This occurred when the game was almost complete and added an additional $10 million to costs. NPD Group reports that the game sold approximately 168,000 copies during the month of August 2008 in North America. This meant that after 9 years of development and millions of dollars, it was only the 8th best-selling game in the region during that time. 8th. When all is said and done, Too Human sold around 700,000 copies. This means that for every copy sold, at least $100 was spent on making it. Yikes. Number 2 is PacMan on the Atari 2600. Porting PacMan to anything in the early 80s seems like a great idea, and it also managed to sell 7 million copies. A resounding success, right? Wrong. Atari jumped the gun and made 12 million cartridges, despite only having 10 million Atari 2600 sold at the time. Atari assumed that PacMan would increase sales for the system. However, consumers and critics alike were not impressed with the game. With 5 million unsold cartridges and an expensive marketing campaign, Atari suffered huge losses. This game, along with number 1 on this list, is often blamed for sparking the video game crash of 1983. And number 1 is E.T. the Extraterrestrial on the Atari 2600. What could possibly go wrong with a game that is coded in just 5 weeks? Well, a lot. Despite selling 1.5 million copies, the game came nowhere near Atari's sales expectations. Atari failed to learn their lesson and ordered production of 5 million copies. To make matters worse, many of the sold games were returned to Atari for refunds by gamers who were less than happy with it. Fun fact, millions of unsold cartridges are now buried in a landfill in the New Mexico desert. The game is emblematic of the video game crash of 1983 and contributed to Atari's bankruptcy. Atari paid $25 million for the license to produce the game, which further added to a debt of $536 million. Taking inflation into account, nowadays that is the equivalent of 1.3 billion. Billion. That's billion with a B. $1.3 billion. Unsurprisingly, a year and a half later, the company was divided and sold. There you go, folks. Not every game is a resounding success. Those are the top 5 games that flopped. Thanks for watching.